nature are so strong that none of our material possessions can save us from the cruel hands of death. In the Bhagavad Gita 13.9, it is stated, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. One who is actually advancing must always consider the four principles of miserable life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. One cannot be saved from all these miseries unless he takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore the only shelter for all conditioned souls. An intelligent person therefore does not put his faith in any material possessions, but completely takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a person is called a kinchana, or one who does not possess anything in this material world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also known as Akinchana Gochara, for he can be achieved by a person who does not put his faith in material possessions. Therefore, for the fully surrendered soul who has no material possessions on which to depend, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the only shelter. Everyone depends on dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and ultimately moksha, salvation. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, due to his magnanimous character, can give more than salvation. Therefore, in this verse, the words hinarthadika, sadhakam indicate that although by material estimation, salvation is of a quality superior to the inferior interests of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, above salvation there is the position of devotional service and transcendental love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the bestower of this great benediction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prema Pamartho Mahan. Love of Godhead is the ultimate benediction for all human beings. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, therefore first offers his respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before describing his magnanimity in bestowing love of Godhead. Okay, so as the purport is saying, a devotee is a kinchana. Because a devotee, he knows that he does not possess anything in this material world, and he has faith only in the mercy and protection of the Lord. He does not put his faith in any material relationship or material possessions, because in the hearts of the heart, the devotee, he is convinced that in my time of distress, only Krishna can help me, nothing else. No one else can help me, can save me but Krishna. As Prabhupada says in the definition of humility, devotee is convinced beyond any doubt that there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world, not my money, not my family, not my fame, not my gun, not my education, nothing can save me except the mercy of Krishna. And when you are convinced like this, then you are humble. Prahlad Maharaj also says this verse, Balasya neha sharanam pitro narsimha nartasya chagadamudanvati majito na taptasya tat pratividhirya ihanja sheshtas tavad vipotanuvritam tvad upekshitanam. So, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, My Lord Nrsingadev, those who are neglected and not cared for by you, they cannot do anything to protect themselves. Whatever remedies they accept, although it may be temporary beneficial, but it is not permanently beneficial. And he gives these three examples. A father and mother cannot protect their dying child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve a patient who's suffering. And a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. Prabhupada also writes in one purport, Our only friend is Krishna. If one makes friendship with Krishna, one will never be cheated and he will get all help needed. So, like that, devotee, he has firm faith in the protection of the Lord. Also, the devotee has firm faith in the plans of the Lord. Whatever Krishna does in my life is simply what is best for me. Whatever situation Krishna has placed me is best for me. Like if a devotee goes through some distress, devotee thinks this is the mercy of Krishna. That Krishna, he is trying to teach me something. He's trying to bring me closer to him by loosening my material attachments. Now, there might be some pain in this process, but this pain is for my ultimate good. So, like an example is given, a mother who asks her child to drink bitter medicine. The child is not liking it. Child does not like to eat that bitter medicine. But mother, she forces upon him, because she knows that curing the disease of the child is more important than the temporary distress that the child suffers in eating that bitter medicine. So let the child suffer that little distress, but ultimately his disease is gonna go away. So that should be all right. So we can remember that distresses that come into our life are like that bitter medicine, meant for our purification, to solve our disease. And what is our disease? Our disease is forgetfulness of Krishna. That's the root cause of all the problems. So, knowing that the miseries of our life are really mercy of Krishna, we can become tolerant of these temporary ups and downs in our life. And instead of lamenting and crying um, for what happened to us, we should try to make the best use of our situation to serve Krishna and to glorify Him in whatever way we can. Like Prabhupada says, we make best use of the bad bargain. So, whatever talents and qualities Krishna has given us, we can utilize that for Krishna's service. And also, I was thinking a devotee needs to have this firm faith that although I'm very sinful, I'm very fallen, and I have made so many mistakes and offenses in my past, and unknowingly I continue to make offenses, still Krishna is He's so kind. Still He loves me and He will never betray me. I will never be alone because Krishna, He will always be there next to me, reciprocating with me, helping me, guiding me, and saving me from disasters. So, like in my last lecture, we were discussing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Mahaprakash Leela. Believe it or not, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our life is also performing Mahaprakash Leela. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come into our lives several times. Like he came to save Gangadas Pandit. We were discussing it in our last class. When Gangadas Pandit was about to commit suicide by drowning in the river, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as a boatman and he ferried him across to save him from the attack of Muslims. To save his devotee Das, he came as a doctor. So, similarly, in our lives, think of some tragic event or catastrophe, near death experience, some accident. Like while you're driving, you had some close shave with some other vehicle. A horrible accident could have happened, but it didn't happen. So think of all those moments in your life where you thought you are finished, you have reached a dead end, that there is no way to get out of this problem. But then suddenly you were saved. Somebody came to save you, or you got a brilliant thought of how to get out of this problem, or some miracle happened. So, like that, think of such situations. And we should know that it was none other than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who came to our life to save us at that moment. So, a few days ago, I was watching some videos of how I came to Krishna consciousness on the Hare Krishna YouTube channel. So, I saw a video of Amarendra Prabhu's father telling how he came to Krishna consciousness, and it was quite eye opening, a video. He said he was a religious person, but he was not totally convinced about Krishna consciousness, and he had not taken up Krishna consciousness seriously at that time. And one night, he was returning from the temple in an auto rickshaw, and a truck was coming straight from the opposite side. And he was convinced that he will be dead, that there will be a big accident. And at that moment, he called out to Krishna. He said, Krishna. And then the accident happened. And he said he was lying on the road with a lot of pain and blood coming out from everywhere. And he was asking for help from people passing by. It was late at night. Nobody was coming to help him. So that's a typical scenario in India. No one comes in such situations. But suddenly, two young boys came out of nowhere, and they lifted him up and put him in an auto rickshaw and instructed the driver to take him to the hospital. Um, and they said that they are following the auto rickshaw and they're coming right behind. But he never saw the boys again. And after going to the hospital and getting the treatment and all his injuries, he was all fine. But then he said he was convinced that the two boys were none other than Krishna and Balram, who had come to save him at that critical moment. And once he had that realization, um, after that, he became a staunch Krishna conscious devotee. And he made his family, his children, Amarinder Prabhu and his brother, staunch, very serious Krishna conscious devotees. So, like that, we can think of situations in our life when Krishna saved us and protected us. Basically, we should be totally indebted to Krishna and grateful to him for all that he has done for us. We can think, I would have been dead long ago or close to dead if Krishna didn't come to save me. I am alive, I am walking, I'm talking, I'm feeling joyful, hearing Hari Katha amidst devotees, all because Krishna saved me. Not one time, but numerous times. And he has given me another chance to serve him. So if we are grateful to Lord, we will use our every moment, our body, mind, and words, prana, artha, diya, vacha, our life, wealth, intelligence, and words in serving Krishna, in telling others about Krishna, and then pleasing Krishna in every way. So I heard in one lecture, one devotee was saying, why wait for that day when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says to us, like he was saying in Mahaprakash Leela to every devotee, oh, remember on that day, this and this happened. Remember that? It was me who came there to save you. So why wait for that day? Let us recall now with gratitude all those events and remind ourselves of Krishna's hand in our life. I heard a nice quote said that success in bhakti is how much you can see Krishna when Krishna is not visible. We can see Krishna everywhere, see how Krishna is protecting us, how he has given us so many gifts. And the greatest gift Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us is the association of devotees. Because from the devotee association, we can know about the glories of the holy name, hear the amazing pastimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed, and keep ourselves absorbed in 24/7 in hearing and speaking about these pastimes. So now let us continue where we left off in our last class. We were talking about the Mahaprakash Leela and Haridas Thakur pastime. So we were at the point where the Muslim king, he told Haridas Thakur that, Haridas, you give up chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or otherwise we will beat you in the 22 marketplaces. And Haridas Thakur, he boldly replied, Khanda khanda hoye deha yaya yadi pran, tabu ami vadane na chhadi hari naam. If you break my body into million pieces, still every piece of my body will loudly chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we can imagine what faith and surrender Haridas Thakur must be having in the holy name. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe, Sudridh Nischay. Krishna Bhakti Koile, Sarv Karm Krat Hoy. That one should have firm faith that if I give number one priority to Krishna consciousness, then my life will be perfect. And Haridas Thakur had this firm faith that I simply have to take the holy name and everything else will be taken care of. So now let's see what happened next. The king, he called the executioners and he asked them to torture Haridas Thakur and beat him till no life is left in his body. So the executioners, they dragged Haridas Thakur by the hair, and it was a public display to warn other people not to become like him. So they beat him and through these 22 marketplaces throughout the entire day. And after going through these 22 marketplaces, the executioners, they were totally exhausted. They couldn't even lift their arms. They were beating him with sticks and whips and they're pulling him, kicking him. They said, Haridas, why don't you die? No one has ever survived more than 3 marketplaces. But you are still alive after 22 marketplaces, and you don't even look like you are in pain. You are smiling and you are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You are in bliss as if you're not feeling any pain. The only time you ever look like you are in pain is when you look at us. And you look like you're feeling so sorry for us. Because you know, if we fail to kill you, the Nawab will kill us. And that's why you're feeling sorry. Oh, Haridas Thakur, we can understand now that you're not an ordinary person. You're a real saint. And therefore, please, all we ask is you forgive us for having beaten you. And then the executioners, they fell at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur, he took such compassion on them. He said, oh, if me being alive is a problem for all of you, just see what I do. So he chanted the name of Krishna, and then all the life symptoms of his body um, left. So he had no pulse, no breath, no heartbeat, and he just fell. So these executioners, they brought him to the king, and the king said, bury him. But then the Qazi said, oh, no, no, we should not bury him. If he's buried, that's auspicious. So he'll achieve the higher destination. So they went to the Brahmanas, the Smarta Brahmanas, and they said, here, he's one of you, so burn him. So the Smarta Brahmana said, no, no, he's untouchable. We cannot burn him. So they asked, what should we do with him? They said, throw him in the Ganges like a piece of trash. So now Haridas Thakur, he wasn't dead. He was in samadhi or deep meditation. It is mentioned as Haridas was lying in meditation, Lord Vishwambar, he entered his body, and his body became very heavy, like a stone pillar. So the executioners, they went to pick up his body, but they couldn't lift him. Then they tried again, and he became so light. They lifted him and they threw him in the Ganges, and he floated downstream. It is mentioned Haridas, he remained absorbed in the nectarian ocean of love for Krishna, and he had no external feelings. He had no consciousness of the world around him. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, he had the ability to constantly remember the Lord. So we'll read some verse from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Yeah, so it says the Haridas, he had the same ability as Prahlad Maharaj to remain fixed in the remembrance of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Regarding the devotional service of Prahlad Maharaj, Narad Muni narrates his characteristics to Yudhishthir Maharaj in the following verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who could list the innumerable transcendental qualities of Prahlad Maharaj? He had unflinching faith in Vasudev, Lord Krishna, and unalloyed devotion to him. His attachment to Lord Krishna was natural because of his previous devotional service. Although his good qualities cannot be enumerated, they prove that he was a great soul, Mahatma. Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, were being automatically performed. Sometimes, feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hair standing on end and tears gliding down from his half closed eyes, because of his love for the Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam further states, by the touch of Lord Nrsingadev's hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head, Prahlad was completely freed from all material contaminations and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed. Therefore, he at once became transcendently situated, and all the symptoms of ecstasy became manifest in his body. His heart filled with love and his eyes with tears, and thus he was able to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. Prahlad Maharaj fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Nrsingadev with full attention in complete trance. So, like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, he had no consciousness of the world around him. He didn't know whether he was in the sky or on the land or in the waters of the Ganges. So Haridas Thakur was flowing in the Ganges, and after flowing for some time, he came back into consciousness. He crawled out of the Ganga, Now, we might think that after this whole ordeal of being beaten for about 12 hours constantly by these massive, strong executioners, he probably would have just quietly gone back to his cave or found a secret hiding place or left that village. But Haridas Thakur, what did he do? He walked right back to the palace of the Muslim king, loudly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Haridas, he came to the king and he laughed and said, "See, I'm not dead. Now please do whatever you like to do with me." So now the question is, why did Haridas Thakur do that? He did this because he wanted to preach the glories of Krishna to the king, to the soldiers, and everyone else seeing this incident. So when the king he saw that Haridas Thakur has come back from dead, he was convinced that Haridas was not an ordinary mortal. He is a saint. He's a sadhu. So the king and the Qazi and everyone else, they folded their hands and they begged forgiveness from Haridas Thakur. They begged to him, "We are sorry. All we ask is to please forgive us. You can go wherever you want to go, do whatever you want. Please, but please forgive us for our offense." So Haridas Thakur, he was so compassionate. He forgave all of them and he blessed them. And then he left that place. It is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat that this entire episode with Haridas Thakur is similar to the heroic pastime of Hanuman in Sri Lanka, when Indrajit, who was Ravana's son, he threw a Brahmastra weapon to capture Hanuman. Hanuman could have easily escaped it, but to show respect to Lord Brahma, Hanuman allowed himself to be bound by Brahmastra. And one reason was also because Hanuman wanted to preach to Ravana and his ministers about the glories of Lord Ram. So similarly here, Haridas Thakur, he could have escaped the punishment of Muslim, but by allowing them to torture him, he preached. He taught the world a lesson. And what was that lesson? Haridas Thakur, he showed everyone that despite the extreme miseries of life, one must never stop chanting the name of Krishna, and that Krishna's devotee never perishes. Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, "Kaunteya pratijanihi na me bhakta pranashyati." My devotee never perishes. So Haridas Thakur, he showed us this lesson from this pastime. So now let's come back to the Mahaprakash Leela. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's at the Srivas Thakur's house. He called for Haridas. And we'll read some verses here till 46. Would someone like to read just the verses? We'll read till verse 46, starting from 35.
I can read. If nobody wants to read, I can read.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Okay, so this is from 35 here. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thereafter, the Lord mercifully called Haridas and said, "O Haridas, behold my form. You are more dear to me than my own body. I certainly belong to the same caste as you. When I remember how much distress the Yavanas gave you, my heart breaks. Listen, Haridas, when the Yavanas beat you in the various villages, I saw your distress and descended from Vaikuntha with the disc in my hand in order to cut everyone to pieces. Yet you desired the well being of those who almost tortured you to death. You ignored how severely you were beaten and desired their well being. When you desired their benefit, I was unable to use my power against them. My disc became powerless because of you. Due to your resolve, I could not sever their heads. When I saw how severely they were beating you, I covered your back. I then took the beating on my own body. Here are the marks. I am not speaking a lie. Besides the other indirect reasons that made me appear, I came quickly because I could not tolerate your distress. My Nada properly recognized you, for Advaita has completely bound me with his love.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he called for Haridas. He said, Haridas, your body is better than mine. I come near you, I touch you to purify myself. The family of your birth is better than my family of birth. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reminding Haridas Thakur. He said, Haridas, do you remember when those executioners were beating you with sticks, whipping you, kicking you with their feet? Do you remember? There is no way a human being could have possibly survived such beating. And they were inflicting so much pain with so much hatred. And because you were crying out my names with so much feeling, I descended from Vaikuntha. Paritranaya sadhunam, to save the sadhu like you. I descended from Vaikuntha in my invisible form with my Sudarshan Chakra to punish them, to chop off their heads. But as you were chanting from the core of your heart, with such genuine feeling, you were praying, my Lord, please forgive them. Please give them your mercy. Please don't punish them. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Haridas, you not even for a slightest moment found fault in them. You only saw good in them. You loved them. And you were willing to suffer and die rather than have them get any of the reactions of their karma. And because of your prayers of compassion, they were so genuine that my Sudarshan Chakra, it became powerless. It wouldn't leave from my finger. And my anger against them was conquered by your love for them. So I couldn't hurt them because I knew if I hurt them, it will hurt you. So all I could do was put my chakra down and lay my invisible body over yours to take all the beatings and whips and kickings on my back. Because of your love and your compassion, Haridas, I did that. Just see. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened his chadar and he revealed all these numerous brutal whipping and beating marks on his own beautiful body. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he starts glorifying Advaita Acharya because Advaita, he recognized the value of Haridas Thakur. Advaita Acharya had created a cave for Haridas Thakur where he chanted the Hare Krishna mantra all day and night. And he gave the first offering from the Shad ceremony to Haridas, showing to the world that Haridas Thakur is the greatest Vaishnava and among the Brahmanas, the greatest Brahmana. Okay, we'll read further um, till verse 57. Somebody would like to read the translations?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
The Lord is expert in one second. The Lord is expert in glorifying his devotees. What is there that he does not say or do for the sake of his devotees? For the sake of his devotees, the Lord
Eats
eats blazing fire, and out of his sweet will he becomes their servant. Lord Krishna does not know anything other than his devotees. In all the universes, there is nothing he considers equal to his devotees. Anyone who is not pleased by hearing the names of such devotees of Krishna is sinful and cursed by the laws of providence. O brothers, behold the glories of the devotees to the full satisfaction of your eyes, and hear what Gaurahari said to Haridasa. After hearing those most compassionate words from the mouth of the Lord, Haridasa immediately fell unconscious to the ground. As he lost external consciousness and merged into the ocean of ecstasy, his breathing completely stopped. The Lord then said, get up, my dear Haridasa. See my manifestation to the satisfaction of your heart. Haridasa regained his external consciousness by the words of the Lord, yet he cried so profusely that he could not see the Lord's form. Haridasa rolled about the entire courtyard. One moment he breathed heavily, and the next moment he lost consciousness. Haridasa was overwhelmed with ecstasy. Although Lord Chaitanya tried to pacify him, he could not remain calm.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Go back to the verse 47. Okay. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying a nice verse here. Bhakta badaite se Thakura bhala jane kina bale kina kare bhaktera karane. What the Lord would not say, what the Lord would not do for his devotees. Therefore, there is no one greater than the Supreme Lord when it comes to glorifying his devotees. Now, we can only imagine the heart of Haridas Thakur when he saw that for his sake, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose transcendental form Haridas Thakur worships, that same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took the beatings of those executioners upon himself. So Haridas Thakur, he started weeping and crying, and he fell unconscious on the ground, started rolling on the ground, saying, "No, no, I'm so fallen. Everything about me is inauspicious. If I touch someone, that person has to take a bath. If I enter somebody's house, that person has to wash the house with Ganga Jal, cow dung and cow urine. And I'm so contaminated. And now see, I have been responsible for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu getting all these whips and kicks by the Yavanas. There is no end to my misfortune." So that was what Haridas Thakur was feeling. So hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling very bad that Haridas Thakur was crying like this. Now all the other devotees, they were also crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately covered himself again with his uttariya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to pacify Haridas Thakur. But Haridas Thakur, he could not be pacified. He wept incessantly. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Haridas, please don't feel sad that I took these whipping on my back. It is my nature to do this for my devotee. This is not the first time I did it." And Vrindavan Das Thakur writes this verse. ज्वलंता नला प्रभु भक्त लागी खाए भक्ते राकिंग कर है अपना इच्छाए. For the sake of his devotees, the Lord eats blazing fire, and out of his sweet will, he becomes their servant. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, it is mentioned 2 times Krishna ate forest fire. Once what was on the night of Kaliya Daman, and once another time in Munjaranya forest. So for the sake of protecting his devotee Krishna, he swallowed the forest fire. When the cowherd boys, they were very fearful of death, they cried out to Krishna, "Krishna, Krishna Mahavira, He Rama Mogha Vikrama, Davagni Nadhayamanan, Prapannam Stratum Arhataha." The cowherd boys said, "O Krishna, Krishna, most powerful one, O Ram, you whose prowess never fails, please save your devotees who are about to be burned by this forest fire and have come to take shelter of you." So this is also the mood that when we chant Hare Krishna, we need to chant in this mood. This material world is kunta, it's full of anxiety and fear. So we need to cry out to Krishna to save us from this Bhava Maha Davagni, the blazing forest fire of material existence. So in this pastime, Krishna, he asks his friends to close their eyes and not be afraid and trust him. And these cowherd boys, when they opened their eyes, they were amazed to find not only that they and the cows, they have been saved from this terrible forest fire, but they have been brought back to the Bandira tree. Sripam Bhagavatam says. So this pastime highlights the point that dependence on Krishna removes all fear. Even when Prabhupada, he was asked once by a devotee, "What do you feel when you chant?" Prabhupada replied, "I feel no fear." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, go back, is saying to Haridas Thakur, "Don't worry, Haridas, that I had to take the beating on my back. This is my nature. Bhaktera kinkara hai apana ichhai. This is my nature to be a Bhaktera kinkar, the servant of my devotees." We see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became the servant of his devotees. For Haridas Thakur, he would carry the Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath to Haridas Thakur every day in Jagannath Puri. Twice he would send the Mahaprasad. Morning he would personally bring it, afternoon he will send it through Govinda. So Haridas Thakur, he was not allowed inside the Jagannath temple, but Lord Jagannath, who is none other than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would personally come to deliver the Mahaprasad to him. So that was the power of Haridas Thakur's devotion. Okay, so and then we have this verse. Bhakta bhai Krishna aur kichu na jane, bhakte rasa mane nahi ananta bhuvane. Lord Krishna, he does not know anything other than his devotees. In all the universes, there is nothing he considers equal to his devotees. So in the purport, it references few verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is from the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj, when Durvasa Muni, he offended Ambarish Maharaj, and he was running all over the place in the three worlds to save himself from the Sudarshan Chakra that was about to kill him. And finally, he fell at the feet of Lord and asked for forgiveness. And at that time, the Supreme Lord says these verses. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the cores of their heart. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in their life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotee does not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. So uh, that's the devotee and that's the Lord. That the devotees of the Lord, they don't know anything but the Lord. They take complete shelter of Krishna in every situation. And the Lord also, he does not know anything but the devotees. Another example is given of Krishna becoming the servant of the Pandavas. We have this verse where Maharaj Parikshit, when he heard that out of his causeless mercy, Lord Krishna, who is universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger to friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. When he heard this, Maharaj Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. So Maharaj Parikshit became overwhelmed looking at the love of Krishna, who took up menial services for Pandavas. And same thing here, Haridas Thakur. He became overwhelmed. He's crying profusely, falling unconscious, seeing the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he has become the servant of his devotees. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is said to Haridas, Haridas Thakur, get up. Now I want to show you my form of Krishna to your full satisfaction. Behold the darshan of Shyama Sundar Krishna that I'm going to give you. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my heart is yearning to hear your prayers. Ask me for any benediction. Ask for anything. So now let us hear the prayers of Haridas Thakur. Amazing prayers of Haridas Thakur. Okay. Okay, would someone like to read 58 through 82?
I can read if nobody.
Sure, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thanks. My dear Vishwambara, O Lord of the universe, please be merciful to this sinful person. I fall at your feet. I have no good qualities. I am a fallen outcast. How can I possibly describe your glories? If one sees me, he becomes sinful. If one touches me, he should take bath. How then can I glorify your topics. You have personally declared that you will never forsake anyone who remembers your lotus feet, even if he is an insignificant as an insect. But you forsake the greatest kings if they do not remember your lotus feet. These words do not apply to me, however, for I do not remember you. You protect even a fallen soul if he simply remembers you. Once the sinful brothers Duryodhana and Dushasana brought Draupadi to disrobe her in the royal assembly. Finding herself in that dangerous condition, she remembered you. By the influence of her remembrance, you entered into her cloth. As a result of her remembrance, the cloth became unlimited. Yet those miscreants did not understand why. One time when Parvati was surrounded by witches, she remembered you as they were about to devour her. By the influence of her remembrance, you appeared to the chastise those witches and deliver that great Vaishnavi. But I am so sinful that I cannot remember you. Therefore, my dear Lord, please give me shelter at your lotus feet. Although the sinful Hiranyakashipu tortured Prahlada by giving him poison, throwing him to the snakes, throwing him into the fire, and throwing him bound to a rock into the water, Prahlada simply remembered your lotus feet and was delivered from all those calamities by the influence of that remembrance. Some lost their teeth and some lost their prowess when
Prowess.
when you manifested by the influence of his remembrance. In fear of Durvasa, the sons of Pandu remembered you in the forest, and you appeared before them out of compassion. You then said, "Do not worry, Yudhishthira, for I am here. I will give alms to the sages. You sit and watch. In order to protect your servants, you happily ate the last piece of vegetable from the pot. As a result, the sages' stomachs became filled as they took bath. So they immediately ran away out of fear. The sons of Pandu were thereby delivered by the influence of remembering you. All these wonderful incidents were the results of remembering you. The, characters, the characteristic of those personalities was to constantly remember you. Therefore, it is not at all wonderful that they have delivered.
They were delivered.
They were delivered, sorry. The glories of Ajamila's remembrance are unlimited. Even though he did not engage in any religious duties. In fear of Yamadutas, he affectionately looked at the face of his son and remembered the form of Narayana while calling out the name of his son. By that remembrance, all of his sinful reactions were vanquished. Therefore, remembrance of you is the wealth of your devotees. I am fully devoid of the remembrance of your lotus feet. Yet, nevertheless, O Lord, do not forsake me.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Haridas Thakur, he said, "My Lord, I am the most sinful person. If someone sees me, what to speak of touch me, then they have to go to Ganga immediately and take their baths. I have no good qualification, but still, by your causeless mercy, you allow me to chant your name. You allow me to remember you. In fact, my Lord, you never abandon those who remember you. But I am so unfortunate that I never remember you." And then Haridas Thakur said, "Draupadi, she was a princess of the Pandavas. She was dragged by the Dushasan on the order of Duryodhan to be humiliated and stripped naked in a public assembly. A fate for her that would be worse than death. And Dushasan, he was like a roaring lion in comparison to Draupadi, who was like a little mouse. And he looked at her with such evil glances and went to pull her cloth. And she turned, Draupadi, she turned to the Pandavas, but they were all helpless. They looked at the ground in shame. She turned to Bhishma and Drona. They all looked to the ground in total humiliation. She looked towards Dhritarashtra and she cried out, "You all are cowards. You all have no character. How could you allow this injustice to take place?" But still, everyone was looking down. No one was willing to help. Then Dushasan, he took her cloth and he pulled. And she tried to pull with her own little hands, but she was no match to him. And when she was in state of total helplessness, with a heart full of pure humility, she raised her arms in the air in the spirit of Sharanagati, surrender, and cried out to Krishna. So I searched online and got this actual prayer that Draupadi made to Krishna. Govinda Dwaraka Vasin Krishna Gopi Jana Priya Kaurave Paribhutam Mam Kim Na Janasi Keshava He Natha He Ramanatha Vrajnatharthi Nashana Keravarnava Bhagnam Mam Udarshava Janardana Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Vishwatman Vishwabhavana Prapannam Pahi Govinda Kuru Madhyavasi Tatim. O Govinda, O resident of Dwarka, O Krishna, O friend of the gopis, do you not know I am being humiliated by the Kauravas? O Lord of Lakshmi, O Lord of Vraj, O destroyer of affliction, save me. I am drowning in the ocean of the Kauravas. O Janardhan, O Krishna, O best of yogis, O soul of the world, O origin of the world, please protect this surrendered soul. O Govinda, I am sinking in the midst of the Kurus. So Haridas, he's saying that this is how Draupadi, she remembered you in her time of distress and you manifested as her sari. And because you are unlimited, her sari was unlimited. Dushasan, he pulled and pulled and pulled and she was spinning like a top. And as he was pulling, until the whole room was filled with sari material. And ultimately Dushasani fell to the ground exhausted, and Draupadi, she was still dressed. Krishna was embracing her as her sari. And this is the power of remembering you. And then he said, Haridas Thakur said, there was that time when goddess Parvati was surrounded by witches who intended to devour her, and she remembered you, and you appeared and saved her from that danger. And then little Prahlad, who was 5 years old, and his father, Hiranyakashipu, he and his most powerful armies, they were bent upon killing the little Prahlad. They threw him in poisonous snake pits. They threw him in the fire. They threw him underwater, tied with massive stones. They fed him deadly poison. But because little Prahlad, he remembered you, you never abandoned him. So here we can see Haridas Thakur, he is glorifying Smaranam, the importance of remembering Krishna. We have this verse, Smartavya Satatam Vishnur, Vismartavya na Jatuchit, Sarve Vidhi Nishedasur, Etayor Eva Kinkara. The perfection of life is to always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. All the rules and regulations in the Shastra are subordinate to these two principles. Then Haridas Thakur gave the example of the Pandavas when Yudhishthir, he was living in Kamyavan, and Duryodhan, he sent Durvasa Muni with his 60,000 disciples to take prasad at Pandava's residence. And Duryodhan, he knew that Draupadi had this Akshay Patra. She had a pot that could feed unlimited number of people until she ate. Because after she ate this Akshay Patra, it became like a regular old pot. And most of you know this pastime, but I will repeat it just so in case somebody does not know. So Duryodhan, he purposely asked the Vasa Muni and his 60,000 disciples to go to the Pandavas' house after Draupadi had finished eating, with the idea that Pandavas will not be able to feed all so many people, and the Vasa would become angry and would curse them, because the Vasa Muni is known to give curses with only slight offenses. So Durvasa Muni and his disciples, they arrived at Draupadi's They arrived at the Pandavas' place, and Draupadi had finished eating, so there was no food left, and the Pandavas, they became very fearful. And Durvasa Muni said, I'm going to take bath in the Yamuna and then come back with my disciples. So when he left, Draupadi, she prayed intensely to Lord Krishna for help to solve this problem. And Lord Krishna, he hears the devotees' call. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Makchitam sarva durgani mat prasada darishyasi atha chetvam ahankar nashrosesi vinakshyasi. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, you will be lost. So Krishna heard Draupadi's prayers, and Krishna arrived at their doorstep, and Draupadi explained the problem and asked Krishna to rescue them from this problem. So Krishna asked Draupadi to get some food to eat, and Draupadi replied, I don't have anything in my kitchen. But Krishna, he insisted on getting some pot from the kitchen, and Draupadi, she was embarrassed, and she got a pot where there was one small piece of vegetable sticking on the pot, and Krishna, he happily ate that small piece of vegetable, and he smiled mysteriously, and he told her that he felt full now, and then he went away. And as we know that Krishna's eating that small piece of vegetable satisfied the hunger of Durvasa Muni and all his 60,000 disciples. Not only were they satisfied, they were so full up to their neck that they became fearful. Haridas Thakur is saying that they became fearful that what if Bhima comes with his club and forces them to eat the lunch? They will not be even able to take even a small morsel of food. So that's why Haridas Thakur is saying they ran away in fear. So in this way, once again, Pandavas were saved by Krishna when they remembered him. Haridas Thakur is also giving so many examples and saying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my Lord, this is the power of remembering you, but I am so unfortunate that I can hardly remember you. So Haridas Thakur gives another example. Ajamila, he was a son of a saintly Brahmana, but because of the association with the prostitute, he lost his good character. He became a sinful criminal, committing all sorts of sinful activities. And when he was old on his deathbed, he was dying. The Yamadutas came for him, and when he saw them, he thought of his little son whose name was Narayan, and he called out the name Narayan. And Haridas said, when he called the name of Narayan, he remembered you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Vishnu Dutas, as a result, the Vishnu Dutas came and they liberated Ajamila. And ultimately, Ajamila attained the supreme perfection of life. So again, this is the power of remembering you. But Haridas Thakur is saying, but please, my Lord, please do not reject me, because I can hardly remember you. So now, what is Haridas Thakur saying? He can hardly remember Krishna. We know he's chanting Hare Krishna mantra every day, 192 rounds, which takes about 23 hours or more. So practically he's chanting all day and night. And chanting is the best form of remembrance. Haridas Thakur is basically his humility. He's genuinely feeling that the Lord is so great, the Lord is so sweet, that I'm not doing enough for him. I want to do more. So that's why he's feeling so humble and saying that I'm hardly remembering you. So for us too, this is a lesson that whatever services we are doing for Krishna, we should never settle down and think this is sufficient. I'm good enough. No, we should always think that I'm not doing enough. I should do more. More chanting, more reading, more preaching, more service at the temple, trying to please Krishna more and more. And that's the greed that we need to have. And that's the greed that is the price to win over Krishna's heart. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukrate na labhyate. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. And then When Krishna, he's pleased with our sincerity and our desire to please him, to serve him, then he will bestow pure devotional service onto us. Okay, we'll read further what happened next. So we'll start with 83. Someone wants to read 83 through 92.
I can read.
Sure, Prabhu.
I think Tunga Vidya Mataji was reading. Okay, go ahead.
What qualification do I have to see you, O Lord? I will ask you for only one thing, not more. When Haridas humbly expresses
No, Mataji, just the verses, not the purport.
okay, just a minute, okay. Prabhu Bale Bala Bala Sakala Tumara. That is it?
The English translation, right here.
Okay. The Lord said, speak, speak, everything is yours. There is nothing that I will not give you. While Haridas, Haridas folded his hands and said, although I am less fortunate, I have a great desire. May the remnants of the servants who worship your lotus feet be my foodstuff. Let this be my devotional service, birth after birth. Let honoring these remnants be my only occupation and religious duty. My life is sinful because I am devoid of remembrance of you. Please make my life successful by allowing me to eat the remnants of your servant. I think this is an offense on my part, for I have no qualification to ask for such an exalted position. O my Lord, O Master, O my dear Vishwambara, I am like a dead person. Please forgive my offense. O Son of Sachi, O dear Lord, please be merciful to me. Kindly keep me in the house of a devotee as a dog. Haridas Thakur became filled with love and devotion for the Lord. Although he repeatedly petitioned the Lord with humility, his desires remained unsatiated.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So Lord Chaitanya, he said to Haridas, ask for any boon. I want to give you whatever is in your heart. Now Haridas, he could have asked for liberation, could have asked for elevation to upper planets, could have asked for elevation to Vaikuntha, to Goloka. He could have asked for anything and he would have gotten everything he needed. But what is the sweetness of Haridas' mood? He asked the Lord, the only boon I pray for is, I'll read the verse. तुम्हारा चरण भजे ये सकल दास तारा अवशेष ये नहाय मोरा ग्रास. Please give me the blessings of the remnants of the food left over by those devotees who love you. So Haridas Thakur, what he wants is when all the devotees have eaten their prasad and whatever is remaining on their plates or thrown in the garbage, that Mahaprasad he wants to eat. So we can imagine the level of advancement of Haridas Thakur. Many of us may find it very uncomfortable. We can't take the juta of someone else, except for our Guru Maharaj, Mahaprasad. Philosophically, we can be convinced, but our conditioning is so that we don't like to take juta of other devotees. But Haridas Thakur, he's convinced that this is the highest benediction. He considers himself insignificant. And he knows that around him there are so special devotees who unconditionally love Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and only by their mercy he can get Krishna Prem. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antelila, there is another pastime that comes highlighting this principle of the power of eating remnants of other devotees. There was a devotee called Kalidas. He had great eagerness to eat the leftover remnants of prasadam taken by other Vaishnavas. So he would hide while the Vaishnavas ate and then secretly from the garbage, from their plates, he would pick up the leftovers. Once he ate the remnants of a great Vaishnava, Jhadu Thakur, who belonged to a very low social class. So, because of his faith in the remnants of the Vaishnavas, he received great mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was able to drink the water that had washed the Lord's lotus feet, who no one was allowed to drink. But Kalidas, he got this special mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we were discussing this verse yesterday. भक्त पदा धूलि और भक्त पदा जल भक्त भुक्ता अवशेष तीन महाबल. The dust of the feet of the devotee, the water that has washed the feet of the devotee, and the remnants of food left over by the devotee are three very powerful substances. So Haridas Thakur asked for this benediction to be able to eat the remnants of the devotees. But after asking this benediction, Haridas Thakur, he became very embarrassed. He thinks that he has asked for some supremely high benediction for which he is not qualified. So immediately says, no, I'm sorry. I think I just now made a big mistake. I asked for something that I don't deserve. He said, I'm so shameless in my condition. Who am I to ask for something so exalted? So then he said, verse 91, read. सचिरानंदन बाप कृपा कर मोरे कुकुर करिया मोरे राखा भक्त घरे. So then Haridas Thakur says, oh my dear Lord, if you really want to give me the blessing, make me a dog in the house of your devotees. So Haridas Thakur wants to become a dog in the society of devotees, because the devotees, when they'll eat prasadam, and because of their compassion, they will feed the dog the little bit of whatever is remaining. So that's what he wants. He wants to become a dog. Bhakti Vinod Thakur also is asking for the same benediction. There is a song. सर्वस्वा तोमार चरणे संपिया पड़े छे तुम्हारा घरे तुमी तो ठाकुर तुम्हारा कुकुर बोलिया जना हो मोरे बांधिया निकटे अमरे पालिबे रोहे बो तुम्हारा द्वारे प्रतिपाजने राशिते न दीबो रखी बुगदेरा पारे तव निज जना प्रसाद सेविया उच्चिष्ट राखी बेपा जहा मारा भोजन परम आनंदे प्रतिदिन हावे तहा. So he's saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying, now that I have surrendered all I possess, I fall prostrate before your house. You are the Supreme Lord. Kindly consider me your household dog. Chain me nearby, maintain me as you will. I shall remain at the doorstep and allow no enemies to enter your house. I will keep them bound at the bounds of the moat surrounding your home. Whatever remnants your devotees leave behind after honoring your prasad will be my daily sustenance. I will feast on those remnants with great ecstasy. So, great souls, that's what the benediction that they are asking for. So now let's see what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's response when he heard these prayers from Haridas Thakur. I'll read some more verses. 93. Okay. Somebody like to read? We'll go through 112.
I can read, Mataji.
Sure, Mataji. Yes.
Okay, just the translation, right?
Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Okay. The Lord said, listen, my dear Haridas, anyone who resides with you for even a day or speaks with you for even a moment will certainly achieve me. There is no doubt about it. One who respects you respects me, for I constantly reside within your body. My glories are increased by a servant like you. You have eternally bound me within your heart. You have not committed any offense to me or to any Vaishnav. Therefore, I am awarding you devotional service. As the Lord awarded his benediction on Haridas, a tumultuous sound of Jai Jai arose. Good birth, noble family, pious activities, and material wealth cannot award one the treasure of love of God. Only by intense desire can one achieve Krishna. All the scriptures declare that a Vaishnava may be born in any family, but he is certainly situated in the topmost position. Yavana Haridas is the prime example of this, for he saw the Lord's manifestation, which is rare for even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma. A sinful person who considers that Vaishnavas belong to a particular caste suffers in the lowest species of life, birth after birth. Anyone who hears the prayers of Haridas and the benediction he received will certainly obtain the treasure of Krishna praying.
And that's the Falshruti. Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
This is not my statement. This is the verdict of all the scriptures. Simply by hearing topics about the devotees, one develops devotion for Krishna. All glories to the great devotees, Haridas Thakur. By remembering Haridas, all one's sinful reactions are vanquished. Someone said, Haridas is like four-headed Brahma. Another person said, he is the manifestation of Prahlad. Haridas is certainly an exalted devotee. He enjoys his pastimes amongst the associates of Lord Chaitanya. Personalities like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva constantly desire to associate with the devotees such as Haridas. The demigods desire the touch of Haridas, and Ganga awaits Haridas bath in her waters. What to speak of his touch? Just by the sight of Haridas, all of one's bondage from time immemorial is cut to pieces. As Prahlad was born in a demon family and Hanuman was born in a monkey family, Haridas was born in a low-class family. As Haridas, Murari and Sridhar cried, Lord Vishwambhar smiled and ate the betel nuts.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's immediate reaction when he heard the benediction that Haridas Thakur asked for, he started laughing. He said, Haridas, let me declare to the whole world for eternity that anyone who sees you will get purified of all sins. Anyone who touches you will become the greatest devotee of Krishna. Anyone who talks to you, anyone who even remembers you, I will give them Krishna Prem. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, generally when people practice bhakti, their glories increase. Lord is saying, generally whoever comes in contact with the Lord, their glories increase. But Haridas Thakur, you are so special that because of you, my glories have increased. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. So in this pastime, we can see that the devotee, Haridas Thakur, he is taking the most humble position. And the Lord, he is also taking a humble position. So this is called a self-effacing nature, not taking credit for anything. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Haridas, you are my master, I am your servant. Because of your humility and love for me, I am forever a prisoner in your heart. Now, nobody in this world wants to be a prisoner. We all like freedom. But Krishna, he longs to be the prisoner in the heart of a devotee who loves him. And he proclaimed it to the entire world. And then Lord Chaitanya said, Haridas, I give you this gift that you will be dear to me, you always dear to me, and you will always be most dear to all my devotees. And you will forever inspire us by chanting with love and devotion my holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And when the other devotees, they saw this exchange happening between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur, they all cried out, Jai, Jai. And then Vrindavan Das Thakur says that Haridas Thakur's example reveals to us that one's caste does not matter. He says Haridas is such an exalted devotee that all the Devatas, Brahma and Shiva, they wait to get his darshan in the morning, and Ganga is waiting for Haridas to take bath in her waters. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, he writes that as Prahlad was born in a demon family, Hanuman was born in a Vanar family, and Gajendra was born in an elephant family. Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family. And these are the examples that reveal that one's caste, family of birth does not matter. What matters is one's mode of humility and faith in the Lord. Also, we see that in this pastime, Haridas Thakur, he conquered Lord's heart by his genuine humility. So this is the hallmark of a Gaudiya Vaishnava. The devotee's desire is to become small, insignificant servant of other devotees and allow Lord's glories to be presented. So like when a devotee, he does kirtan, he sings bhajans, give lectures, does service, the devotee does not want to portray himself as the hero to attract everybody's attention on himself or herself, but he desires to glorify and make holy name the hero or Krishna the hero. So a genuine devotee, he wants to take a back seat and put Krishna and other devotees in the front. He wants to give credit to others for anything that he's able to do good. And this is the quality that attracts the Lord and conquers the Lord's heart. And we have seen that many of all our acharyas, their mood is like that. They feel themselves very insignificant and fallen, and they think that they have no good quality, like Bhakti Vinod Thakur in this song Gopinath. Gopinath mamani vedana shuno vishayi durjana sada kamarata kichu nahi mora guna. O Gopinath, I am a wicked materialist, always addicted to worldly desires. I have no good qualities that I possess. So that's the mood of Gaudiya Vaishnava. And what happens when you think yourself as insignificant? What's the benefit of that? The result will be that you will not desire any respect from others, any praise from others. And that's how you will not be easily offended when you're not getting any respect. But you are willing to give respect to others. Trinadapi sunechana tarurapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanaya sadahari. So that's the principle that we learn from this pastime. That's how we can remain joyful in unconditionally serving Krishna when we consider ourselves insignificant. And then we can perform Harinam Bhajan, chanting of Hare Krishna all the time, constantly, 24/7, if we are in this consciousness. So Haridas Thakur showed us by his personal example this principle of Trinadapi Sunechana. So I want to end my class with telling one pastime I heard, one miracle pastime Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed because of his love for his dear devotee Haridas Thakur. So I'll open this. So there is a place called Sri Siddha Bakul in Jagannath Puri. It's a bhajan kutir of Haridas Thakur. And let's see. So this is the entrance to Siddha Bakul. And this is the place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur would sit and discuss the glories of the holy name. You can see we're going to talk about this tree here. Sri Siddha Bakul tree, the place where Srila Haridas Thakur performed his daily bhajan of chanting 192 rounds. Haridas Thakur. Okay, so would someone like to read from here? It's a few paragraphs. History of Sri Siddha Bakul.
I can.
Sure, Mataji.
Devotees from Gaudadesha came to Jagannath Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during annual Lord Jagannath Ratha Yatra. Mahaprabhu welcomes everyone as they arrived in Jagannath Puri, but he could not see Haridas. Haridas had not approached Mahaprabhu, but rather stayed on the main street, offering his obeisances from altar. The devotees ran to Haridas to inform him that Lord Chaitanya was asking for him. Haridas replied, I am a fallen and low born. I am not qualified to go near the Jagannatha temple. If I can get some place in the garden, then I will spend my time there chanting my rounds. I do not want the servants of Jagannatha to touch my body. They will be contaminated by touching me. Devotees went to Mahaprabhu and told him these things. Mahaprabhu was very happy to hear of the humility of Haridasa. At the time, Kashi Mishra and the superintendent of the temple came to meet Mahaprabhu. They had arranged accommodation and prasada for all the devotees who had come from Gaudadesha. Mahaprabhu said to Kashi Mishra, near my place there is a flower garden. In this garden there is one solitary house. Can you give me that house? I would like to sit there alone and perform Namasmarana. Hare Krishna.
No, Mataji, continue.
Yeah. Kashi Mishra replied, my lord, everything belongs to you. Why do you have to ask me? Whatever you need, just use it. After making the arrangements for accommodation and prasada for all the devotees, Mahaprabhu then came to meet Haridas. Haridasa was chanting the holy name in great ecstasy. And as soon as he saw Mahaprabhu, he immediately fell at the lotus feet of the Lord and offered his prostrated obeisances. Mahaprabhu picked him up and embraced him. Both were crying with great love for each other. Haridas said, O Lord, do not touch me. I am fallen, low class, and untouchable, and the greatest sinful person. Mahaprabhu said, I am touching your body that I may become purified. I am not as pure as you. At every moment you are taking bath in all the tirthas. At every moment you are performing yagna, tapa and charity. Constantly you study the Vedas. You are more pure than brahmanas and sannyasis. Mahaprabhu then took Haridas Thakura to the flower garden behind his own room, and Haridas Thakur to reside in that most secluded place and perform Harinama Bhajana. Mahaprabhu said, I will come here every day to meet with you. From here, take darshana of Neela Chakra. Every day I will personally come to meet you and bring Jagannatha Prasada for you. At this, should I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
At this time, the place Mahaprabhu secured for Haridas's residence was known as Mudra Madda. Neela Chakra was visible from the country yard of the mutt, but now, due to the many buildings surrounding the mutt, it can no longer be seen.
Yes, you can continue, Mataji.
How did unique Bakula tree in the courtyard become known as the Siddha Bakula? Every day morning during Avakasa period, the pujaris of Jagannatha Mandira offer 3 twigs of a Kumbhatau tree as toothbrushes, Dantakashtan, to Jagannath Swami, Baladev and Subhadra. One morning before the offerings, a twig was missing. So the pujari hastily arranged a twig from Bakula tree to use as toothbrush. Every day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to the temple of Jagannatha for darshan. That day the pujari, after offering, gave Bakula twig to Mahaprabhu as Mahaprasada. Mahaprabhu was in ecstasy. Having received the toothbrush, the Lord, when Mahaprabhu came to see Haridasa, he planted the Mahaprasad Bakula toothbrush in the garden. Soon that twig grew into a large tree that offered shade to everyone. And daily Haridas Thakur would perform his bhajan under the tree. After the departure of Haridas Thakur, a devotee named Sri Jagannath Goswami used to perform bhajan here. One day, the king's officials arrived at the Bhajana Kutira. They were searching for suitable trees to cut down for making the wheels on Jagannatha's Rath Yatra chariot. Finding this Bakula tree to be stout and straight, ideal for making the chariot wheel, king officers informed Jagannath Goswami that they would return with workers the following day to take the tree. Sri Jagannath Goswami objected. He told them about the supreme sanctity of this Bakula tree, which was planted by Mahaprabhu himself and used as the bhajana sthali of the revered Namacharya Thakura Haridasa. Should I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Can you scroll little down, Mataji? Yeah. But king's people paid no heed to his appeal. They decided to cut this tree, and so Sri Jagannath Goswami remained quiet, trying to understand that this must be the desire of the Lord. When king's officers returned the next day to take the tree, they observed a miracle overnight. The main trunk of Bakula tree had become petrified, as hard as rock. Rest of the tree was completely hollow, bent over and winding here and there. It was of no use to them. Unlike a normal living tree, this phenomenal Bakula tree has no middle portion, it only has outer bark. According to botanical principles, the tree should be dead, yet it is thriving beautifully. This tree is no ordinary, having been used as a toothbrush for Lord Jagannatha, then planted in the ground by Mahaprabhu's own hand, and acting as a shelter of Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakura, any person or even an object like a bakula twig that is intimately connected with Lord Jagannatha, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and the Namacharya Haridas Thakur will surely attain perfection. The Bakula tree had attained perfection, and from that day on, it became famous as the Siddha Bakula tree. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu planted the tree on Chaitra Sankranti, May to June. Until this day, it is celebrated as Danta Kasta Rupana Mahotsava, festival of the planting of the wooden toothbrush. When devotees perform Abhisheka to the Sri Siddha Bakula tree with 108 kalasas of water.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So, from the toothbrush of Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sowed it in the ground, and suddenly this huge tree came about. And then Haridas Thakur would perform his Nam Bhajan underneath that. And after the departure of Haridas Thakur, there was this devotee, Sri Jagannath Goswami, used to perform this Nam Bhajan. But then the king officers came to cut the tree. And they said that they'll come tomorrow. But this devotee, he didn't want this tree to be cut. But suddenly, overnight, this tree became this winding, as we saw, like it's winding so much, and then it became hollow from inside, and outside it was it's supposed to be a dead tree, but you can see there are leaves and flowers on this tree, but still the tree is alive. As it says, the tree attained purification hearing the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra by Haridas Thakur. And anyone in association with Haridas Thakur, whether it's a tree or a person, will attain perfection. And that's the blessing of blessing to Haridas Thakur that we heard in Chaitanya Mahaprakash Leela. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given him that blessing. So today we have associated with Haridas Thakur through his prayers and through his pastime. So we can get his blessings, and so that our taste for chanting increases day by day. Thank you, everyone. Acharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. That's all I had to share.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So it was a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for nice class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Quiet.
There's a
Hare
Anybody has any comments?
I really loved the pastimes. It was so nectar to hear. I could hear again and again, Mataji. Thank you so much for wonderfully explaining it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
I was wondering, what is that Parvati was surrounded by witches? What is that pastime? Is there somebody knows what happened, or how Krishna protected?
Um, I don't know the details, Prabhuji. I can look it up, but
Yeah.
I'll
I
see if there's
was just,
something in the purport.
yeah, I was just thinking that when you were reading. So what was there? I had read this before, but I didn't know. Um, yeah. So you were mentioning about this. How we were reading that purport. Prabhupada was saying that Krishna is the property of the materially impoverished. So I was remembering this verse from Kunti Devi. What is that verse? Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shrivi He Dhamana Madapuman Naivarhatya Bhidatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. So one who is proud of his, the whole thing is about humility. So all these things can make us proud. A good birth, opulence, what is that? Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, good learning, and Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri, and good beauty. One is very beautiful. Then one becomes very proud. This is Mada. Mada means we have Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada. Mada means it is intoxicating, this all these things. So one can become very proud. But if we are on this, Kunti Devi says, then you cannot chant the holy name with great feeling. When you feel that you have a lot of qualities and lot of, then you cannot chant because you are proud of these qualities. Then you cannot chant the holy name with Prabhupada writes in that purport. So Krishna is the property of the materially impoverished. One who has lost faith that nothing, all these things cannot give me happiness. And humility also means one is free from desire of sense gratification. Only when you are free from desire of sense gratification can you actually be humble. Because otherwise you are competing with Krishna for the position of being enjoyer. So unless one is free from gross and subtle desires for sense gratification, one cannot really be humble. Although we may behave humbly and we may talk politely and nicely, but until that inside our heart we have given up this, relinquished these desires, then we can't really be humble. So that was also I was thinking about the humility. And then this akinchana, this word also comes in Prahlad's prayers. Neishamatistavadurukramangrim sprishyatya anarthapagamo yadarthaha mahiyasham padarajo abhishekam nishkinchanam. Actually not akinchana, nishkinchanam. Nishkinchananam na vrinitayavat. Oh, if you want to become Krishna conscious, you have to take shelter of a devotee who is Nishkinchana. Nishkinchana means he is no desire for uh, sense gratification, gross and subtle, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, like that. One who is in that consciousness is Nishkinchana. So, so that is, and the other thing you are saying about how nobody can protect us. So there is a verse, Deha patya kalatara dishu atma shaineshvya satsvapi tesham pramato nidhanam pashyanapi na pashyati. Bhagavatam says that those who are blind to self-realization, they consider that their family, their society, whoever, Deha patya kalatara dishu atma shaineshvya satsvapi. These are my soldiers and they will protect me. This is my Sena. Atma Seneshva Satsvapi. Tesham Pramato Nidhanam. Pramata means one who has become intoxicated by this. Nidhanam. Pashyanapi na pashyati. Although you can see that they are also fallible soldiers, but nobody can protect. So this we have the definition of humility, that nobody can protect actually. Now, does it mean that money cannot help, family cannot help, medicine cannot help? Yeah, they can give some temporary relief, as in that verse you are quoting, Balasya Neha Sharanam Pitra Narsingha. Prabhupada says, yeah, this can give some temporary relief, but it cannot solve the root cause of the problem. That's the other things, all these things cannot solve. Money cannot solve the root cause of our problem in this material existence. Family cannot help in any way. I mean, if they can help, if you are sick, they are the ones who will first take care, right? Family. And medicine can also help. But what does it mean that we cannot, we have given up faith on all these things? It means that we have to have faith that this can give me some temporary relief, but it cannot really solve the root cause of my problem, which is I'm rotating in the cycle of birth and death, and I'm going through all these miseries because my root problem is a consciousness problem. And all this money cannot change my consciousness. Of course, it can change my consciousness in that sense. I can become very proud, or but really, until we become Krishna conscious, we cannot. The problem cannot be solved. That is why it is described. Krishna bhuliya jiva bhogavancha kore, pashate maya tare japati athare. If you forget Krishna, then Maya will grab you and give you all kinds of misery. And then some relief is provided in terms of some temporary relief. You get some temporary relief in form of, some help from somebody like that. Of course, we should be grateful to somebody who helps us. But until I become Krishna conscious, I cannot really solve my problem. So that's what also I was thinking. And then Prabhupada quoted this phrase, Prema Pumartha Mahan. That is from that verse. Which verse? Aradhya Bhagwan Vrajesha Tanaya Stadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasna Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartha Mahan Sri Krishna, what is it? Sri Chaitanya Matamidam Tatradharana Paraha. So there also Lord Chaitanya defines what is our philosophy in this verse. It is quoted in Chaitanya Manjusha by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I think. But so he says, Aradhya Bhagwan Vrajesha Tanaya. This son of Nanda Maharaj is our worshipable Lord. Aradhya Bhagwan Vrajesha Tanaya. Tanaya means the son. Just like we have Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. And the supreme abode is Vrindavan. Tadhama Vrindavanam. Ramya Kachi Dupasna Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. The best method is that which is done by the Vrajavadhus. Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. So Varga means the group. And the best method is that done by the gopis. And what is the evidence? Srimad Bhagavatam is the evidence, which is the Amal Puran. Amala. Without any contamination. And Prema Pumartha Mahan, this is the Pancham Purusharth. This is Dharmartha Kama Moksha, and the fifth Purushartha is Prema Pumartha Mahan. So sometimes, when we are in distress, we should feel this is the best situation for me Krishna has put. But we should also analyze. I was thinking about it. Yeah, Krishna has done, this is best for me. But what am I doing wrong? Why, that why question Prabhupada was saying in one class. The why question, if I'm suffering and I don't ask the question why am I suffering? What is the root cause of my suffering? Why am I suffering? So maybe in our devotional life also, if we are getting some distress, we can analyze, okay, why am I suffering? What is of course, the ultimate root cause of our suffering is we have turned away from Krishna. But am I doing something wrong? Am I not following the process properly? What is it? So we have to, while the situation is good for me, I have to always ask the question why. Like Sanatana Goswami, when he met Lord Chaitanya, he said, everybody calls me they glorify me and consider me a Pandit. But I don't know. I'm such a fool. I don't know who I am. And why these three modes of material nature are inflicting miseries on me. Why am I suffering? So there's Prabhupada says there is an Upanishad called Keno Upanishad. And that why question is what actually distinguishes us from the animals. Animals are also suffering and they are happy, but they don't understand that they are suffering. So human being is also suffering, but if he doesn't understand that he's suffering, that is a problem. And why am I suffering? That why question must be there. Otherwise, there is no difference between us and the animals. So that was also uh, like one thing is to say that, yeah, this is the best situation Krishna has created for me, and but I am also suffering because of my past sinful activities, what I have done, what am I doing wrong, I have to analyze. If I find that I'm not doing anything wrong, then we should understand, yeah, it is my past karma and Krishna is giving me the results. So and he's minimizing. So so the whole material world is a distressful situation. Why? To bring the jiva, wayward jiva, back to Krishna. So Krishna has created this material world and given us distress. So, so this is how, like you were saying about how the child is given distress by the mother by giving the medicine, so that ultimately the child will become. So this material world is also like that. It is causing us distress, so that ultimately we will turn to Krishna. Ultimately, we will give up our hopes of enjoyment in this world and will turn to Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna, who is like the mother, and we are like the child, and Krishna is giving us distress in the form of all different kinds of miseries. So we turn to Krishna. And we have made so many mistakes. So one thing to learn from this mistake is don't trust the mind. Don't trust the mind. Prabhupada says this. I was thinking about it as you were saying. We have made many mistakes in the past. And why we have made these mistakes? Because of this mind. So forget trusting this mind. Don't trust the mind. Because if mind is not controlled, and oftentimes it is not controlled. I mean, at least for me, I'm saying. So don't trust the mind. The mind can victimize you in a second, in a moment. It can take you away. So Prabhupada says, don't trust the mind. And, you're talking about some devotee who had distress in his life, and then somebody came to save him. But even if supposing we have good karma and we have had not such a distress, we didn't go through an accident, um, even if we have even if there was no danger in our life, like some people have good karma and there is not much distress in their life, but even then we are in distress. So because we are, that's why Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is saying that try to realize the distresses of birth, death, old age, and disease. Sometimes some devotees may not have this kind of situation. Everybody may not go through an accident or be saved in an accident. But still, we have to realize, okay, this is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. This birth, death, old age, disease. I cannot get out of it. This is the distressful situation. That is why sometimes good karma can actually be a problem for taking up spiritual life. Because everything is nice, so why I have to take up Krishna consciousness? So, or every time I drive on the road, there is distress. Because anybody, if you are driving perfectly, but anybody else, the truck beside you, the big truck, they can make a mistake and they can pull in your lane and you can be crushed. So every time, even if we didn't suffer like any danger, we are actually in danger, because every time you drive on the road at 70 miles an hour and you see all these big trucks going around you, and anybody can make any mistake. So the the reason we come back home safely is because Krishna is protecting us. Otherwise, we can't come back. Every time, of course, we don't think like that. We think, yeah, it was a nice drive. everything. But so many things can go wrong on the road. And every time we come back home safely, Krishna has protected us. Although there was no accident, there was nothing that happened on the road. But many things could have gone wrong on the road. And Krishna protected me. So another thing I was thinking about Haridas Thakur, how he was fearless. So this song is there. One who Prahlad was also very fearless. He was fearless. They were beating him. He was forgiving them. Sudarshan Chakra didn't do anything. But he was fearless. So this is the quality. In the 16th chapter, Krishna describes the different divine and demoniac qualities. And he lists one quality as Abhayam. So those who have completely taken shelter of the Lord, they are very fearless. And this song is also there. Which song? Bhajahure mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanaro Vindare. One who takes shelter of the Lord becomes fearless. And Prabhupada was also fearless, and his disciples also. So I was reading this article. Let me share this. It's not related to the class, but it is a nice article on Dandavats. Rising early, and it applies to me. So I was reading this. How if you want your Krishna consciousness to go nicely, you have to rise early. So on Rising Early, it's by Shivaram Swami. It's the most practical way to become Krishna conscious. So let me read a little bit. I often have to encourage devotees, especially those not living in the temples, to rise early in the morning and come to the temple for morning program or to have one at home. Devotees should generally rise by 4 a.m., which means that their lives must be organized in such a way that they get sufficient rest, meaning taking rest early. And this is applying to me more than anybody else. Certainly, there are many considerations for individual cases. However, we'll see from the collection of the quotes from Srila Prabhupada below that His Divine Grace made few exceptions to His rule of early rising. Rising early is difficult, but that is the meaning of austerity. Sometimes it is very troublesome to rise early in the morning, but whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance. I don't think he has given the quotes, but it is, you can find. Srila Prabhupada envisaged that everyone rise early and participate in the morning program. In this Krishna consciousness movement, we require everyone to rise early in the morning by 4 a.m. and attend Mangalarti or morning worship and then read Srimad Bhagavatam, perform Kirtan and so forth. This is especially so for devotees living in the temples. For instance, so we are not living in the temple. So it doesn't mean it's optional, but if you want to make advancement, then you have to rise early. For instance, in the Krishna conscious temples, the devotees rise early in the morning at 4 a.m. and they immediately bathe. Then they go to Mangalarti at 4:30, and after Mangalarti they study the Vedic literatures. And even children can be trained to do so. We say the child must rise early in the morning, worship the deity in the temple, and chant Hare Krishna. In the beginning, force may be necessary. So even the child is saying. Otherwise, the child will not become habituated. But the idea is to divert his attention to Krishna conscious activities. Then when he realizes he is not his body, all difficulties will disappear. Very amazing statement that when you realize that you are not the body, all the difficulties that you feel, will disappear. Why? Because I have nothing to do with this. Of course, it is a very high state of consciousness. What to speak of preachers? Preachers living in ISKCON temples follow this advice daily. They rise early and gather for Mangalarti before the temple deities. And making this effort is part of learning how to love Krishna. So you must practice how to love Krishna. First, you have to rise early in the morning. You don't like to, but you think, I will rise early to satisfy Krishna. This is the beginning. If we don't think we need to do it or think we are advanced, then we will fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe and attend Mangalarti, worship the deities, chant Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from the process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. Even if one is in the renounced order, He should never give up the regulative principles. Early rising is one of the 9 limbs of devotional service. Pada Sevanam means to rise early in the morning. This is the culture of India even today. So the Indian public still, even they are not very educated, because the culture is there, especially in the villages. They rise early in the morning and take bath. For it was also the example set by Krishna himself. Krishna was also used to rise early. He was lying with his beautiful queens, and as soon as there is cock crow, this is from Krishna book, he immediately would rise early in the morning, 3 o'clock. And if we cannot rise early, then we should understand what that means. If we cannot rise early in the morning, that means we are under the clutches of Maya. This is the test. And for those serious about advancing in Krishna consciousness, they know what to do. But at least everyone who is interested in advancing in Krishna consciousness must rise early in the morning before 4. Now, it's not only a matter of rising, You have to be very fresh. You have to be rested and you have to be fresh. If I sleep at 12 o'clock, I may forcibly rise at 4 o'clock. But then I am not at all fresh and I'm in the Mangala Arati. But my mind is tired and I'm not able to even meditate on the meaning of the song that I'm chanting. And I'm chanting and I'm falling asleep in japa time. And so the purpose is not just to rise early, but to rise early and absorb the mind in Krishna. So just like Ekadashi. Ekadashi is not just meant for fasting. Yeah, we have to fast. But the purpose of Ekadashi is to actually absorb our consciousness in Krishna. So these are few of Srila Prabhupada's comments on early rising. That thus children, adults, preachers, sannyasis, villagers, men and ladies, everyone should be up by 4 a.m. if not earlier, ready to attend Mangala Arati. So if you are doing Mangala Arati at home, you can do. That is also very nice. But so this is, and the other thing we see from Haridas Thakur, although he was a great devotee, he never considered himself a devotee. So devotee never thinks himself a devotee. So then I was thinking how we say Krishna will protect me. Krishna will surely protect me. Well, because I am a devotee. No, Krishna will protect me. I am not a devotee. Then why will Krishna protect me? Well, that is Asha Bandha. Somehow I hope that even though I am very fallen, somehow Krishna is so kind. Of course, it's a very difficult thing to understand that if I'm not a devotee, why will Krishna protect me? If I'm thinking like that, if I'm not a devotee, then why will Krishna protect me? I'm not. Krishna says, Kante pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Only devotee are protected. So that I was thinking, how then one would realize that Krishna will protect me? Well, they have faith, Asha Bandha, that I am fallen, but somehow or other, Krishna will give me protection. So that is called hope against hope. And in this way, the great souls, they feel like that because they are thinking they are not devotee. Like when Haridas Thakur is saying, yeah, I'm very fallen. Is he just saying like that because he wants to show he's humble? No, he's actually feeling. Like when Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I don't have any attachment, I'm full of lust, I'm attracted to lusty activities. Yeah. Does he mean that he's just writing to? No, they actually feel. It is not just for making a show. So, but they have hope in Krishna's mercy somehow. So maybe that is how we can reconcile this. Okay. And bhakti is very simple. We have to try to serve Krishna with love. I was also, when Haridas Thakur said, I'm very fallen, this Krishnadas Kaviraj also, Goswami also says, I was reading this verse, Jagai madai hoite mui se papishta, purishera kita hoite mui se lagishta. I am more sinful than Jagai and Madhai, and even lower than worms in the stool. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nityananda Prabhu personally came in his dream, but he's saying, I am so fallen and I'm fallen than Jagai and Madai, more sinful. Jagai and Madai were very sinful. And he's saying, I'm even lower than the worm in the stool. So it's a very incredible consciousness, how it is. Then he says, Mora name shune ye tara punya shoy. Mora nam loy ye tara papa hoy. Mora nam shune, whoever hears my name. Tara punya shoy. Shaya means destroyed. All his pious activities are finished just by hearing my name. Mora nam loy ye tar papa hoy. If anybody utters my name, they become sinful. So this is the consciousness of the great souls. But we can't artificially imitate like that. But this is how it is. Everywhere you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Haridas Thakur, and okay, so and as you were saying, I was also thinking that we should never think we have done enough. We should always try to do more. This is also something Bhakti Charu Maharaj told me. Don't think you have done enough. You should never think you have done enough. Now that doesn't mean we increase the quantity but without quality. No. That is not the meaning that we have to just increase our number of rounds, but there is no quality. No, there increase in quantity and quality. Both has to be there. Otherwise, it's not much meaningful. So the quality and the quantity of service both has to be increased. Okay, so these are some things I was thinking. Bilva Mangal Thakur also says, I have captured you in my heart. I made you prisoner in my heart. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to be prisoner in the heart of his devotee. The one who is freeing everyone likes to be imprisoned in the heart of his devotee. And Bilva Mangal Thakur says, I have captured you in my heart and I will not free you for millions of eons. Right? For millions of years you will remain there. In my dark heart which is full of anarthas, I will not release you. We have that song, Praje Prasidam Navnita Chauram. So, okay, so these are some things that I was thinking as you were speaking. All right, anybody else has anything? Or we'll end here. Thank you very much for your class and sharing all the pastimes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.